Welcome back. This is an Aleks homework video on writing a chemical formula given a chemical structure. A chemical structure is a two-dimensional representation of a molecule. Okay, so if I had my toys from class that I can build 3D models to where you could see that some are in front and some are behind, and it's very three-dimensional. That's what's actually happening. You're going to have three-dimensional objects. Atoms are three-dimensional, and the bonds they form are three-dimensional. But it's very helpful if you can scratch them down on paper so you can look at them. So this is a squished model or a 2D model called a chemical structure. So what it's showing you is that you have a carbon atom attached to 4 other atoms. So you have a central atom, the carbon atom is central, and these are all attached to the carbon, and they're not attached to each other. So the bromine is not attached to the hydrogen is not attached to each other, the iodine is not attached to anything else, just the carbon. So it's acting like this, the spokes on a wheel, and the carbon would be the hub of that wheel. So from this, they're asking you to take that and make a chemical, using this chemical structure, make a chemical formula. Now, on the computer, you're going to be able to, if you look at the homework help, you could probably get a three-dimensional model here where you could move the slider and see it represented in 3D space. But you can almost imagine that. If you were to tie 4 balloons at the knot and they all kind of get out of each other's way, you're going to get the shape of it's called a tetrahedral shape, and that's the shape of a central atom with four ligands or attachments to it. Okay? All right, so how do you make a formula? Well, if you remember some of the rules we used previously of making formulas, you're going to start at the left side of the periodic table first, and if 2 things happen to be in the same column, the lower one is written before the upper one. And hydrogen is the weird exception that always comes before groups 6 and 7. It comes after everything else and then groups 6 or 7. So even though the hydrogens are in group 1, we're going to ignore that and look here. This is in group 4. This is in group 7. This is in group 7. Okay, so the bromine and iodine are both in group 7. You're going to see that iodine is lower in the periodic table than bromine. Bromine is higher up towards the top of the periodic table. So you're going to put the iodine before you put bromine. So the first one I would have is the carbon. It's first because it's the lower of these numbers, not with the exception of hydrogen. So I'm going to write carbon first. Okay, now there's only 1 carbon, so I'm not going to write the number 1. I'm just skipping that subscript. The next one I write would be hydrogen because both of the other 2 are in group 7, and hydrogen comes after everything and before groups 6 and 7. All right, so there's no group 6 here, so hydrogen's next. Okay, so the hydrogen here, and there are 2 hydrogens, so I'm going to give a subscript 2. Now I'm going to include the iodine because it's the lower on the periodic table. And then I'm going to give you the bromine, which is higher in group 7 than that. Okay, so the chemical formula for this chemical structure is CH2IBr. Okay, hope that helps.